Find a new way to live in Toronto's coveted Forest Hill neighborhood. Foray by Canderel blends thoughtful, livable suite design with refined finishes and more than 50,000 square feet of amenities, including wellness spaces, work-from-home areas, fitness facilities, and places to unwind. A modern, elevated community crafted for the life you've earned. Your next home starts from $599,000. Learn more at live@foray.ca. That's live@foret.ca.
To Bathurst and Finch and Bathurst and Shepherd, both intersections, every corner. Okay. So like the south, the north, the east, the west, okay? All of that.
It was a very rainy Sunday afternoon in North York, but that didn't stop dozens of volunteers from lining up at the Shomrim Toronto Command Centre at Bathurst and Wilson to help expand the search for Esther, the missing 14-year-old autistic teenager that most of them don't even know. On this day, they were giving out stacks of updated missing person posters. There were two kinds. The green posters came from Toronto Police. These include a new tip line and a QR code where people could upload photos or video. It also has a newer photo of the girl. She's wearing her green sweater and gray sweatpants with no shoes, no coat, and no phone. This photo looks like it came from a security camera inside a restaurant. On the weekend, Toronto Police announced Esther was spotted 2 kilometers south of her home, about 45 minutes after she ran away from her family late Friday night, May 15th. The second poster in red comes from the volunteer Shomrim Toronto Safety Patrol. It announces a new $25,000 reward, and they claim an even more recent sighting that same night, although police haven't confirmed it. But Shomrim says Esther was seen riding a late-night bus heading to downtown Toronto. That's why volunteers like Mark and Lori Namer went off to tape some of these updated posters in the subway system.
So we're going to 2 different subway lines, putting up the posters, covering over the old ones because there's updated information. We're going to talk to the attendants and the service people that work there. And
we're going to ask as many people if they've seen her and just raise awareness as best as possible to bring this girl home.
We have 2 kids, we understand how this can happen.
Anything can escalate, and unfortunately this seems like it's escalated, not just to a simple running away, because it's been at the week mark. So whatever we can do to help out, we're here to do our part.
I'm Ellen Besner, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like for Monday, May 25th, 2026. Welcome to North Star, the flagship podcast of the Canadian Jewish News, made possible thanks to the generous support of the Ira Gluskin and Maxine Granovsky-Gluskin Charitable Foundation. "10 days after Esther, who's known to family and friends as Esti, disappeared, the search has entered a new phase. Toronto Police set up a new website called Find Esther, and supporters of the family have announced a $25,000 reward and a separate Shomrim tip line. And volunteers across the city went out replacing posters that were either destroyed in recent rainstorms or, more likely, torn down. And while individual volunteers paired up Sunday to reposter the city, word was getting out to shopping malls and office tower property managers, and others made sure Esther's poster was visible at the nearby Rogers Stadium in Downsview, where pop star Bruno Mars kicked off a week of performances at the outdoor venue in front of more than 50,000 ticket holders every night. The Grassroots command post is operating out of a commercial building on Wilson Avenue. There were plenty of police officers and cruisers deployed up the street at Bathurst and Shepherd, monitoring the regular Sunday demonstrations involving anti-Israel and pro-Israel groups. But here at the volunteer command post, there were no police officers Sunday afternoon when I was there, only volunteers. Still, the organizers insist they remain in constant communication with Toronto Police. Simi Zelenik is a coordinator with Shomrim Toronto, and he outlines the latest developments. There's been quite a good steady a lineup of people coming. What is it that they're doing today? What's new?
Today we are going from Thornhill all the way downtown, repostering. There were posters that were ripped off of bus stops, ripped off of city poles, and a lot of them got washed off in the rainstorm yesterday and the day before. So we're basically just going to reposter the strip of Bathurst and major intersections.
And you were mentioning some got ripped off, some got torn. What do we know about the actual people doing? Do we know that people are ripping or people are jumping to conclusions?
No, you can definitely clearly see that posters were intentionally ripped off of bus stops and poles around the city.
Okay. Today the posters are green and red. There's a new color. Is that something why?
There are two different posters. There's the green posters are the posters that were distributed shared with the TPS. QR code and the TPS hotline, Toronto Police Hotline on them. Yesterday, somebody came forward offering a reward. The family they coordinated it with the family, so those posters are going out as well today.
And do we want to say anything about the reward?
Information that will result in Esti coming back. They will be whoever provides that information will be rewarded. Will be compensated.
Okay, so that's new. They also have a new Toronto Police tip that they saw her at later on in the day or later on in the night. They put out last night something. What can you tell us about that?
There's footage of her at Bathurst and Hotspur, clear footage inside the Popeyes. That's the last confirmed footage that we have. Yeah, no, police are, they're doing their job. They're canvassing the neighborhoods also, and they're trying to get as much information as they can. Our volunteers are doing the same, and we're cooperating fully with Toronto Police Services.
Some parents or some people here have been saying, why didn't they do an Amber Alert? Have you been hearing that too?
Yeah, a lot of people are asking about that. An Amber Alert is specifically for abduction. So we don't believe that there's an abduction at this point. So there's no Amber Alert that's going out.
And what has stood out for you? And some people are coming and you're hearing why?
I mean, it's just the response of the community has been amazing. From Saturday night, just over a week ago, 500 people came out, and then it's been consistent. Just the community response has been, really, really spectacular and really moving, and it means a lot to the family. It means a lot to the community that people really care. Like I say, today is mainly for repostering and getting word back out. It's kind of a reset day.
And have you ever done something like this before in your experience?
This is the first time Showman Toronto has had a missing person that we've been this actively involved in. I've been personally involved, but not as Showman Toronto.
So tell me about that.
A few years ago, there was a case of a missing teen in Thornhill, Cindy Abrams. There was a search and rescue that went out for him that unfortunately didn't end well, but the community also galvanized to help find him.
So how are you keeping together and strong on this? And, it's been a week now, more.
Yeah, really. I mean, our main objective, our only objective is to find Esti, and that's what's keeping everyone going.
Are you getting other people besides Jewish community members coming to help?
We had a group of 20 search and rescue volunteers from Rockland County, New York, that drove in as soon as they heard about it. They've had 2 shifts of volunteers come and go since last week. We had a group of search and rescue also from upstate New York called Matsil. They were here in Earl Bales until they exhausted all their search efforts there. And just people from across the community, Jewish and non-Jewish alike.
Thank you, Simi. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Coming up, why the father of an autistic man had some advice for the family of the missing girl.
You're going to make me cry.
Victor Physico came to offer his help on this day, even though the hospital worker had already been searching on his own in the neighborhood where Esti was recently seen. You see, Esther's disappearance hits close to home because, although Physico isn't part of the Jewish community, he's the parent of a son with autism, and he's lived through his own similar nightmares when his son used to run away. Physico told me he had actually consulted his son before coming over to get advice for the family and the searchers, and he was in tears talking about it. Sorry to make you
And my son has ran away many times.
And he told you when you were asking him, he knows about this, and
Yeah.
And he said, what would he do?
He wanted to come, but then he was scared to come. Right? But I hope we find her. And I hope we find her safe.
And why would somebody that, you know how it is at home with, gets angry and runs away, why would they do that? What would spark something like that?
That's a good question, because a lot of the times it's none of his business. It's other people's problems, and he kind of like puts it all on himself. So he would run, right?
Just overwhelmed.
Yeah, overwhelmed. And the thing about autism, kids with autism, their brains are like computers. So his brain is like a sponge. So everything he learns and sees and does, he soaks it all in. So I think it's the same thing with her.
And he said where he would go. Can you?
Well, we know where he would go. We know his favorite place, which is the lake shore. And many times he would go there. But he's learned to control it, which is better for us.
So this is not your first time here. What did you do the last time you were searching?
We were just walking up and down Hotspur and around my area, like the 7-Eleven, and I checked the stairwells in my apartment building. Yeah, nothing.
So you know what the parents are going through?
Yeah, I know what the parents are going through. But you were talking about the bus. I think the bus driver would have let her on. Because some bus drivers just, especially that time of night, just let you on.
Because they wouldn't have called the police? Do they have to call the police?
Well, that I don't know. It depends. It depends on the bus driver. Now, did she get in the front door or back door? If she did take the bus. Because, or is she still in the Hotspur area?
But how's she getting
my wife
food?
It's
eight
days, 7 days. Yeah, but my wife is, well, that's another thing. If she doesn't talk to anybody or speak to anybody about what's going on, she could always, like my son said, she could always get food from somewhere. She could always ask for food and they'll give it to her. Because he said that's happened to him when he's ran away. He would go to a closest restaurant and they would give him food. He would look really upset and, here you go, I'm hungry, can you give me some food? Basically, that's what my son would do.
And you're not Jewish?
No.
You saw that they've been ripping down the posters?
No, I didn't notice that.
Some people have been ripping them down because they found out that she was Jewish, because of all the stuff that's been going on.
Yeah.
When you hear about that, what goes through your mind?
Well, I don't like what's going on right now in Israel. In Iran, I don't like what's going on, but there's nothing I can say about it, right? It is what it is.
Yeah, but they're ripping down her posters.
No, I mean, my point of view about Israel. Yeah. But ripping down her posters, that's not right. That's not right. That's not right. Yeah. We got to find her. We got to try our best to find her. What is your point of view?
About what happened to her? I'm scared for her too. Absolutely scared.
We all are. We all are. That's why my son doesn't want to come.
You think parents' worst nightmare, which...
It is.
It is.
Let's hope my son is right, because like he said, kids with autism find a way, and she will find a way. And I think she might have found a way.
Is there a certain area of the city that you're heading to?
While Sander Hitzig didn't know Esther either, his son is in the same age group and attended the same school that she did. Hitzig and his son picked up a stack of 32 posters on this day.
I'm going to poster them at Bathurst and Finch, Bathurst and Shepherd, at all 4 major intersections.
Is this your first time?
Yes.
What is your motivation?
Just awful. Just want to help out, and if it's a small part and leads to finding her, then yeah, why not?
How old is he?
He's 14. Yeah.
So when you heard about this as a parent...
Yeah, of course. It's heartbreaking.
Do you live in the area? Like,
yeah,
do you know the family?
Yeah, I don't know the family. I don't know the family at all. I live in the neighborhood, and my kid went to Dublin, which I believe isn't that where she went?
I'm sure.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So, just to help out and come together as a community.
And so you have to do 32 posters. You
Yes.
saw that some of them have already been ripped down.
Terrible. It's awful. I mean, this is a missing kid. It has nothing to do with being Jewish. I think any community, if you have a kid that's missing and you can help out, you should help out and not tear it down. I don't know what's wrong with people. And so I don't know what's going through people's heads. I don't want to make any suppositions, but, let's get some posters up and hopefully find her.
On my way down to the command center and then on the way home, I personally saw plenty of posters torn off the utility poles along Bathurst and the bus shelters, even at the main entrance to Earl Bell's Park, where Esther first went missing. All but the soggy top and bottom of a green Bristol board was missing, attached only by the clear tape. And similar reports have come in with photos from many places in Toronto. This volunteer, who didn't want her name used, has been shaken by seeing the posters crumpled on the sidewalks or just missing.
You said you were walking around another day, and the news about people ripping posters down has been personally really upsetting too. Do you want to tell me what you saw?
Yeah, it's horrifying. You see this, pictures of a missing girl crumpled up on the street. It's soaking wet, and I think the posters are pretty easy to rip down, but you still see them crumpled in balls, beside the telephone poles. And yeah, it's horrific that people, just because she's Jewish. At first, it was interesting that the sign said that she was Jewish, right? Because in this kind of anti-Semitic climate, I was surprised about that, but now they've taken that down. But I guess people still see those red and white. For me, it kind of looks like the posters from when the hostages were in there, and maybe that's all people are seeing, the red and white that look similar to those hostage posters. I don't know. They're ripping them down, and it's horrific that a 14-year-old girl, regardless of her background, should be... I think it's important to reach out to people and have people spread the word on their social media. So we've been walking around with posters and through Earl Bales, and now the search is obviously expanding from there, and getting people to take pictures of her face and the sign so that they can post it on their social media. That's what they had asked us to do a couple of days ago. That was really important, just to get her face out there so people know. And now there's some changes. There's now a reward for her. I think they're just broadening the scope of the search.
And impacting you personally, like when you heard about this at first?
We have kids of our own. And this is the Jewish community. This is what we do. We're here for each other. Every person counts. Every person matters. And regardless of the story, we come together. We come together in grief, and we come together in celebration. And that's the beauty of the Jewish community. And we don't have a lot of time, but we are heading downtown. And that's why we're just here to check in. And if we are going downtown, what we can do en route downtown. It's just, if everyone could just do a little bit, even if they can't commit to the full 2 hours that the command would ask them to commit to volunteer, just to know, where they can keep their eyes peeled.
You said you had kids?
Yeah.
How old are they, if I could ask?
They're later teenagers.
And are they aware of this? Have you talked to them? How is it with them?
Mm-hmm.
What are you saying to them?
Yeah, it's horrific. And we've got friends who, have kids who are at school with her, or we're at school with her. So it's all very horrific. But like I said, I think, the Jewish community is small, but we're strong and we're unified, and we come together to help each other in grief and in celebration. And that's what's so beautiful.
And that's what Jewish Canada sounded like for this episode of North Star, made possible thanks to the Ira Gluskin and Maxine Granovsky Gluskin Charitable Foundation. When I left mid-afternoon, volunteers were still arriving for fresh assignments, and I was glad to see some of the earlier volunteers had successfully put up the new posters on the torn remnants of the ones inside a bus shelter I passed at Bathurst and Steeles. The Shomrim Command Post reopens Monday from 11:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. at 345 Wilson Avenue West. Organizers say they still need volunteers. North Star was produced by Zachary Judah Kaufman and Izzy Helenchild, with Michael Freeman, the executive producer, and Alicia Richler, our editorial director. You can check the links in our show notes for the tip line and the latest news at the cjn.ca website. And thanks for listening.